this part starts out in A, which is easy enough, but then it makes its way into, some more obscure keys. So I'm going to start it in G, and there's a lot of stuff here to go through, and I have it memorized in the original key, so I'm going to have to sight read this. So I'll just leave any mistakes in that aren't too bad. So here's what we got, and then we'll go over what the lines are. Bar 1. So we did this yesterday, or the other day, the ending line. I've covered that. So let's go back to bar 1. This is straightforward, but it's in G. Bar 3, it changes to G7. Now this could be also thought of as a B minor 7 flat 5. Because we're going to E7 and then A minor. So it could be a B minor 7 flat 5 to E7 to A minor. And the B minor 7 flat 5 would be, some variation on that. And here's the E. We start on the flat 9 F. And there's the resolution to the A in bar 7. E7, A. And then on the A, bar 7 is now A7, which also could be C sharp minor 7 flat 5, but because we're going to F sharp 7, starting from the flat 9, same line. But here we're resolving from F sharp 7, bar 8, to a B7. He's doing this sort of really interesting climb. So on B7, we start on the 3rd, and that takes us to E minor from the 3rd. And then we get this really cool line mirroring what we just did, getting us to A minor from the root, another line, similar line, oops, and then B7. This is a long B7. So first off, we had a 2-5. We had an F7 pulling us to B7, pulling us to E minor, getting us to A minor, which is acting as the 4, because now we're going to B7, which is the 5. So this is a long, bar 10 is a long B7. We start out with B add 9. The next measure uses the add 11. And then measure 14, we use the sharp, the flat 13 and the flat 9. There's the flat 13, or sharp 5. That's flat 13 because we have the 5, the flat 13, flat 7, the flat 9. Very interesting line. That's B7. So we start out with a B7/9. And then go to a add 11, B7 add 11, and bar 13. Bar 14 is the tensions, flat 13, flat 9. And then we get the diminished up a half step, which I've covered. C diminished over the B. Resolving, finally, to E minor. So that's all 2/5, 5/1, you know, and then now what he does here is we're in E minor. It sounds like it's about to go boom. But he doesn't. He fools us and goes to a different section of the song. He goes to A minor to D7, kind of a 2/5. He goes to an A minor to a D7 to an E7. So that's kind of like 1, 4, 5 back to 1. And then a B7 to dominant 7, which of course means we're going to E minor. So you can see how he's just sticking around the key, but you know. So anyway, so this section, A minor, it's a mini 2/5, like in a blues, where you have A, D, G, C7. You know, so we get just 2 bars each. These are A minor, measure 14. Here's our D7 from the F sharp. That's a great line. Now an E7 from the G sharp, of course, and then back to A, bar 18. Now a B7, again from the third with a flat 9. And then an E minor, mirroring. So third, flat 9, root, flat 7, and the E minor, root, 5, you know. And then bar 19, he stays in E minor and does a pivot lick. So, all E minor. And then goes to the coolest B7 lick I think I've ever seen. So it starts on the third. Just a scale, really. But then he pivots off of that. Flat 9, pivots off the major third. Root, pivots off the major third. Flat 7, pivot. That line you should remember. Anytime you get a dominant chord, you know, if you're in C, you know, throw it in there. So B7. And then bar 21 is just an E minor arpeggio. B7, bar 22, B7 arpeggio. Worth learning. Next bar 22, E minor arpeggio. There it is. Back to B7, bar 24 with this stuff. And that he does that chromatic idea again. Bar 28, that's all B7. 24, 25, 26, 27, all B7. 28 is E minor. Then a little B7 flat 9. Notice he's accentuating the flat 9. Flat 7, flat 9. And then he does the one sort of, Bach always does this at some point in most songs. He kind of goes into a modern, more modern jazz. He takes a little chance. And what he's doing here is, now if you analyze it, it's in B7. We're in B7. B7 flat 9. Bar 29. So that, what all that is if you take a little B arpeggio, B, you know, 7, 6, 9, and we play 8, 7, 6, and then the 9. That's what that is. It's like a little jazz lick. But he just does that. It's like an approach note, but he's walking away from the F, and then he hits the. It's, you know, it's a little jazzy. It's a little experimental by Bach, but it mirrors the next E minor line. Bar 30. Little B7, 2-note B7. All right, bar 31. We have an E minor A7 to D, a classic 2/5, pivoting off the flat third. Where else? What else would he pivot off of? The flat third of E minor is G, so we're pivoting off it. Now on the A7, we know it's A7 because he's going to the C sharp, still pivoting off the G. So for the A7, that's the flat 7 of A7. So on E, it's the flat third, on A, it's the flat 7. And he pivots off it both measures. So E, A7. Just outlines the A7 a little better. And then bar 33 is the resolution to D, so we get a classic 2/5. And then the second half of 33, oh no, that's just D. So 31, 32, 33 is a classic 2/5 in D. And then bar 34, well, now we're in E7. So now he's doing that lick where it's G sharp D, pivoting off the D. A variation of it, bar 34, E7. And of course it's E7, so we're going to A. But then he brings in the flat 7, meaning we're going to D. Here's a nice lick in D. Flat 7, meaning we're going to G. And there's the third of G. Up the scale. Pivot lick off the root. G. Bar 38. We land on the A. This is now D. Or on the 5th of D, A. We'll go up the D scale. D7 because he introduces the C, but we're pivoting off the D, which takes us to G, a G arpeggio, then an A7 arpeggio, a D arpeggio with the 11 and the 9, then an E7 arpeggio, but with A in the bass. Takes us to A. And that's it. So that's all the stuff that in the song is actually in some a little more obscure keys. It's when I played through it, I was like, I can hear it, but I don't get what he's doing. I mean, I know D flat. I play in D flat, but the licks weren't sinking in like when I see it in B7. When you see it in B7, pulling to the E, you can say, oh yeah, I see what he's doing. If you're familiar with the basic jazz keys. Or, we just don't get as good at C sharp. C sharp is just not. C sharp, F sharp a little bit, yeah, but then it goes to G sharp minor, and it's like keys that you never see in changes, or unless you specifically write and practice in them. But it's a little easier to base the licks in E. And then if you want to run them through all 12 keys, if you really like a lick, any lick you really like, you want to use, run it through all 12 keys in different positions as well. A7, going up a fourth. He never does the same thing over. He'll change, when he goes up a fourth, he'll change things a little bit. If he's using a real dark scale on E minor, like with the flat 13, on the A7, he'll probably go, natural 13. And then on the D, he'll do D major, something major. Or, here's the D7 to bring us to G. All right, this is part one of taking the pieces of the prelude that are in D flat, C sharp, and moving it over to A minor, E7, that type of thing. So that little section there that I played, I moved, and I started out in C. So let me just go over this. So line one is just C. He starts a run just in C major. And then in line two, still C major, using the tension, the 4. Starts out with the tetrachord, C add 9. But then line 3 becomes a nice C7 line. Line 4 is a C7 arpeggio. It's real nice. Now, what Bach likes to do when he's in C or C7, he likes to go down 3 frets to so he's in C7. He likes to go C, A7 to A7, down a minor third, which is what he does here. He plays the C7 arpeggio, and the last line, B flat, A, B flat, G. That's it. That approaches the A. So that's his little setup for A. And that brings us to A7. Or it starts out at just A, but it's A7. There's the A7. Now this is really cool. So line 8 is a HM5, D harmonic minor. Pulling the D. So it starts on the G, the flat 7, line bar 8. And walks down to the 3rd of D. That's a great line. So if you're playing jazz, you got a bar of E, and then on A, so on E, and then on the A, and then there's a pull to the D, and then on the D, 9, he just plays the D arpeggio, and then the measure is split because then it goes goes to an E7. So now the D minor is the 4, and the E7 is the 5, pulling back to A. So again, we get a 5-1, and the D minor could be thought of as B minor 7 flat 5. So this is a 2-5, bar 9. That could be the B minor 7 flat 5, and then the E7. That's a great line for E7. So B, E7, pulling to A minor, and it's just 10 is a arpeggio. Where he's kind of bouncing around a little bit. He's not like going in order. And then bar 11, back to E7. And this is chromatic. Just off the E. Kind of like an approach note. And then another chromatic. That's actually in the E mixo scale. But it's interesting because he's playing the C sharp, but then the C. So that's more just chromatic. And again, just E. Oh, this is all E7. This also is a really, really nice line. We're on bar 14. So what's happening here is this is one of the lines you really want to try to remember. He's pivot licking off of the flat 7. So if we bring it up an octave off the D. So he's going G sharp, the 3rd, flat 7, A, flat 7, B, flat 7. This octave off of an E7. So if we put this in a 2-5, bar 14, B minor, E7 to A7. A7. So, great line. G sharp, A, B, G, A, G sharp, B. And in between he puts the D. Now, this is not pulling to A. It could be, but he stays in E, and he does this really cool progression. I didn't play, that's why I just played the progression as chords. Because in the piece, it's in A flat. And then it goes to A flat slash. It's a weird key. So I'm just moving it to E. What he's doing here is he's playing an E and then going to the 4 chord, but minor. So it's E, and then he goes to A minor, but he keeps the E in the bass. And there's a low C as well. To the E, and then the A minor with the E in the bass. So it's just 1-4, 1 dominant 4 minor. Great progression. It would work well in modern progressive music. E7, EHM5 kind of thing to an A minor. And then he goes to a B7 flat 9 with the E in the bass. B7 with E in the bass. This is something Bach likes to do on the dominant, on the 5. Keep the E and keep the root in the bass. Then we have an E sus4 to E. That's a really cool progression. I would steal that. Any songwriters, just rip that right off. Just play it differently, instead of playing it like. That's how he plays it, It's in A flat originally, and then it goes to D flat slash D flat minor with the A flat in the bass and a low, but that's why I'm moving it to E for now. So finally, bar 22, we pull the A minor, and we get another really cool lick, which is the theme of the song, this descending kind of thing that I did in the last video in A, where we play the root, and then we go down the scale, and then the 5, 4, 3, and then 3, 2, 1. He does it here, but in minor. That's the scale, and then root 5, 4, 3, and then a minor 9. So, and then he repeats it, but starts from he skips the first one and goes to the second, where it's root 5, 4, 3. You know, he skips the scale. Just the starts with that, the minor 9, and then a nice line that pulls to the D7. So this is a nice 2/5 in G. Kind of, you know, A minor to D7 from the 3rd of D7. Now there's a great D7 line. You know, use it or use it up here, bring it up an octave. You know, in any jazz tune that has a 2/5 in G. Autumn Leaves. All right, so we're on D7. Oh, and here's another nice G resolution. I should have used this, Autumn Leaves. So we get the A minor to D7 to G. That's bar 23. Oops. So this is the same lick again. We just did an A minor, but now we're using the G scale. And that, instead of pulling a D7 like the A did, we're pulling a C7, always up a 4th. He's moving 4ths as much as possible. So this bar 28 pulls to C7. Now we get a C7 line that's extremely useful. Bar 28 and 9. So you get a 2/5 in F, your G minor. Whoops. And then on the C, well, let me get this little, you know, little more streamlined. F. And that's what it does. It goes C, bar 28 and 9. You know, just use, you could use the first half or the second half in a 2/5 when you only have 4 beats. The second half, oops, or the first half, and then resolve to the F, bar 30. And of course this line, you know, so a 2/5 in F from G minor to F. You know, you won't have that much time, obviously, in changes, but it's just, you know, the ideas. The ideas are just helping you to give you different ideas. Yeah, there's too many licks swimming in my head. I'm drawing, you know, starting to draw a blank here. D and so forth. Yeah, study them. So anyway, that's the prelude in a little more seeable key, the cool lines, and then the rest of the prelude, the beginning. You know, it's in E. That's perfect key, and the whole ending, when it starts with from that pivot lick, the whole ending is E, A, and B. You know, very easy to see what he's doing, which I did a lot of the E stuff already. But anyway, so there's some more Partita, and then I'll have the whole thing in tab, so you can play it in the original key, and give that a shot. And I did play it, and there's just no chance of making it through it without botching one note. So I just edited a few different sections together.